what often the insurance industry forgets about is the franchisor is not just a lead generation system to sell more insurance policies. You have to be solving problems for all the stakeholders involved, franchisors and franchisees. What are we doing for the franchisee? How are we making it easier and less friction for them to purchase the proper coverage to be able to protect their investment, a significant investment? Are we forgetting that you guys are spending anywhere from $50,000 to millions of dollars to get into franchising, and insurance is the thing that finances that risk? And so we do all these things to make it easy for them to protect their investment. That also aligns with the FDD, give all that data back to the franchisor so they have complete oversight of everything, but it's a done for you solution.
Welcome to the Franchise Founders Podcast. We are on a mission to help aspiring entrepreneurs just like you take action through franchise ownership,
allowing you to obtain more financial freedom, time with family, and ultimately a business that can run on its own without you.
All right, welcome to the Franchise Founders Podcast. Really excited about our guest, Wade Millward, here today. How you doing, Wade?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Excited to have you on. Quick introduction about Wade. So Wade and I met at, I think, a Springboard, or maybe before that, actually. We talked through LinkedIn and connected and got on a call. Right? I forget, why did we originally get on a phone call? Do you remember?
Because we're in franchising, and franchising people just want to connect and network. That's it.
Well, you're the king. You're the king. I've never seen anyone like, that's got to be one of your superpowers. You got into this space and partnered with some of the elite right away.
Oh, the king. I don't know about that, man. I quickly realized early on that franchising was so small, but it was so important to have the right relationships that was it. So I figured, hey, let's do it this way. And I realized it was quickly that's invaluable.
Franchising, as far as everyone knowing what everyone's doing, has gotten to the point that, like, when you think about doing something, you think about buying a new shirt and then you get ads for it and you're like, how the hell did they know I wanted to buy that type of shirt? That's how, like, I'm having that happen. I'm making moves right now where I have people calling me and I'm like, do you guys have my office bugged? I didn't tell anyone. How do you know that already?
Yeah, small community, man. It's wild.
Well, before
and there's the fact that the office is bugged.
Yeah, right. Christian's got me bugged. So before we jump in, Wade, could you just give us like the backstory, your story, how you got into this business, and a little bit about the company? Yeah,
man. Yeah, happy to dive into it. So a little bit about me. I grew up in Southern California in Orange County. My grandfather started an insurance agency in 1947. My dad took it over in the 70s. So obviously I always wanted to be insurance growing up, right? Like, that's just the thing you do. I ended up, I served a mission. So I lived in the Philippines for 2 years. That was kind of a cool experience. Came home and tried going to a semester of a junior college. Didn't even make it through that. I was like, college is just not for me. And so I was like, I got plan A. I had no plan B, definitely no plan C. I was like, all right, I got to work for my dad. So I started in the insurance industry, and really over time began to become passionate about insurance and insurance technology and just solving problems. Fast forward a ton of years. This is around 2018. One of my existing customers, a franchisee from Sotheby's International Realty, approached me asking me to solve some problems. And it had to do with insurance, certificates of insurance, and leveraging their buying power. They were a large franchisee, the number 2 in the entire country with 600 brokers. I got to work, created something that I thought was pretty interesting, got in front of her. She was ecstatic about it. In fact, she was so excited about it that she helped me iterate the pitch deck. She got me in front of the president of the franchise. Mind you, she called me out of the blue on Halloween Day, 2018, when I was wearing an inflatable unicorn costume. So this is kind of webcam stuff for some reason. It wasn't like I didn't have one yet. She calls me up. She goes, Wade, we're hopping on a call with the president in 6 minutes. You're ready. And I was like, yes, Heidi, I will do that. Thank you. Hopped on a call, didn't know what I was doing, went through the presentation, talk, didn't ask any questions, right? It was just a hot mess, terrible. And at the end of that conversation, I was pretty jazzed about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, did I just pitch a president of 900 locations on Halloween Day wearing an inflatable unicorn costume? 100%. And the guy was like, hey, yeah, this is really interesting. Thank you so much. And I didn't know what to do at that time. So I was like, oh, thanks. Hang up the phone. Okay, what do I do next? Like, I had nothing. It was just a concept. And I'm like, there's got to be something here. So I started doing some market research. And lo and behold, my brother here in Utah knows this guy by the name of Scott Abbott. I didn't know who Scott Abbott was, guys. So they do an email or a text introduction. I get in front of Scott Abbott.
For anyone listening, Scott Abbott is probably the most successful home service entrepreneur, franchisor, one of the most successful, right? So just for context.
And one of the most fun. His place is his lake cabin up in Canada is just unbelievable. I went there back in August. It was super cool.
He's the best, dude. He's the absolute best. So I don't know who Scott Abbott was. Not only successful, fun, but also well-known. And he has a good reputation. So it's like, the guy's stacked. Let's not talk about Scott anymore. I don't want him to hear this and just like, he gets all. So anyways, I get introduced to Scott Abbott. Scott is very successful for himself. And he doesn't talk about it very often, to be honest. He's pretty humble about that. But I'll never forget it. He's like, yeah, we got to go to this pizza place in Spanish Fork. And I can't remember what it's called. Some hole in the wall pizza place. And he loves these noodles that he gets there because he's celiac. So he gets these noodles and we're eating and I'm just asking a bunch of questions, right? And the age old saying of ask questions or ask for feedback and you get money, and ask for money, you get feedback is really quite true. I'm going through my presentation, just asking a lot of questions, and I'll never forget. He just stops me right in the middle of a sentence. And he asked me, how much is this going to cost? And at the time I had not thought about it. I had no idea. And being a first-time founder and never really understanding how much technology is going to cost, I was just like, I don't know, Scott. Like, I don't have a number in my mind. He's like, Wade, how much is this going to cost to build? And so I come up with a number. And anybody that has built technology, please laugh. I said $50,000. And so looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I should have asked for a lot more than that. So we keep talking, and I'm like, well, why? And then if anybody's heard him talk about this kind of stuff, he has talked about it before at conferences. And he's like, look, I'm a franchisor. I'm growing 5-star painting. I have 150 franchisees. And we're trying to manage insurance compliance for every single franchisee. We're using paper. We're updating spreadsheets. We're putting in all the information. And what happened, Wade, was one of the franchisees didn't have the right coverage. He ended up canceling. I had no idea. Nobody never notified me, didn't get anything in the mail, didn't receive an email, nothing. Franchisee's subcontractor or employee goes up on a ladder, falls off, and becomes a paraplegic. Franchisee doesn't have the right coverage to pay for the medical expenses. So the franchisee gets sued. He goes BK. That person and that family comes after the franchisor. He goes, I'm on the hook now because I'm the franchisor. I'm the one with the deep pockets, right? So he gets on the hook. I guess I won't say the numbers, but he was in litigation for years and ended up having to settle for quite a bit of money. So he's like, what you want to build, every single franchisor has this problem. I know it. I experienced it. So I met the one dude, very successful, very well known, great guy. And he also had the exact problem that I'm solving for. So that's how I started in franchising.
Unbelievable. So like most of us, you weren't thinking, hey, let me get into franchising, but you kind of fell into it or stumbled upon it.
Yeah.
But wait, there's more, right? Because the story doesn't end there.
The story doesn't end. Of course not.
You go and you get another partner, right?
Okay. So the story continues. So this is in 2018, mind you. And actually there's a little bit of a delay. About a year and a half goes by where I don't push harder on the franchising concept, even though it's there. I know it can be something. I actually doubled down my family's insurance agency, and I try to continue to work things out. But I'm an entrepreneur at heart, I think, and I was just kept butting heads, and I had to build something. And when you're an entrepreneur, you have these ideas. Like Dan's shaking his head right now. You guys got to see him, and you are no longer I call it like you're no longer in control anymore. You are compelled to go and to do something. You're pulled away and you're like, I have to do this. Otherwise, I'm going to go insane or just be miserable the rest of my life. So finally, March of 2020, yes, March of 2020, I am a COVID baby. I incorporated Rikor. That's when I started the company officially. And we quickly realized that the way into this industry is through relationships. So we leveraged Scott's relationships. We got in front of quite a bit of franchisors. We did a bunch of market research initially. And what I tell people is that what would have taken me months, if ever, months, 9, 10, I don't care how many months, Scott, a single text message, a single phone call, or a single email. That's it. And these people, oh yeah, absolutely. I'll talk to Wade for sure. No problem. Right. So he would open the doors. I'd have these conversations. Market research was done within like 6 weeks or something like that. I'm like, oh, I got some really good information here. I think I know how to build this thing. So we start building. I'll fast forward through all the trials and issues, building technology, complete nightmare. We have our first beta customer, August of 21, home service brand. So thankful for him and their patience, and they're still with us today, which is incredible. Anybody that's built technology again knows. Anybody that's built a business knows in the very beginning how challenging it is and how many issues and problems you have to solve for. Springboard of 2021, me and my partner do a pre-game marketing campaign is what we called it. We identified a list of people that were going to Springboard of 21, about 100 people. We created a 1-minute professionally made video and we blasted it out there. We had, so I started tracking the data. I think we had 6 people watch it. 6 people out of 100. I'm like, oh, 6%, sweet. I think the open rate was like 20%, but a 6% watch rate. And one of those people was Ryan Zink. So I didn't know, again, this is me being naive. I didn't know who Ryan Zink was either at the time. So I do my due diligence. I'm hustling, calling, following up, all that kind of stuff. I show up to Springboard 21, fresh as a baby, and trying to meet people and talk and just completely green. I have no idea who's who and what's what. And I don't know what left or right is. And Ryan Zink is interested in chatting. Again, I don't know who Ryan Zink is. I look into it, Franchise Fast. I'm like, oh, this could be a really cool kind of partnership. Maybe there's something here, guys. And Ryan Zink, we finally meet the last day of Springboard, 30 minutes before the Uber guy arrives. We sit down and we just start talking. I'm getting real amped, right? Real hyped up. I start talking, telling him this idea and what we're doing, how we're building and what our go-to-market strategy. And he's just listening. Coolest guy, right? And I thought maybe this was like a kind of a referral partnership. And at the time, Ben Fox was sitting next to me from Pro Nexus or 5-Star. And after I talk with Ryan Zink, I lean over to Ben. I'm like, Ben, if I can get that guy, I think we're going to do something pretty exciting here. So we keep talking, and sure enough, Ryan didn't want to be a referral partner. He wanted to be an investor in the company. And I attribute that. People ask me, how'd you get Ryan Zink? I'm like, I don't think I got Ryan Zink. Ryan Zink already had the idea to do insurance in franchising. It was perfect timing. But again, if I didn't take the action, he would have never known. I would have never met him, and this would have never happened. So then I get hooked up with Ryan Zink. Ryan Zink ends up investing. And he starts opening up doors like you could not believe, which was absolutely incredible. So it's going, it's moving pretty fast now. Lots of exciting stuff.
That's awesome. I was, I think to what you said about you didn't get Ryan Zink, the business, was a great product that brought him in. I was at the Emerging Franchisor Conference this past week in Nashville, and Michael O'Browning Jr., Unleashed Brands was speaking. Man, he gets you pumped up. But anyway, he was talking about businesses are not sold, they're bought. Meaning you're not going to build a business and then fast talk your way into selling it to PE, right? It's a great business. Buyers are coming to buy it. You're not selling it. They're great business are bought. And he was talking about if you focusing on building a great product, and then the buyers will come automatically. So for you, you've built a great solution, and the investors have come naturally to that.
Yeah. I think it's so true. It's often people are seeking they're seeking problems to a solution they created. When in reality, it should be, hey, where's the problem? Now let's create the solution for the specific problem. And that's what we're doing. There's clearly a need in franchising for what we're building. We're still early on, but it's, to be honest, guys, like I haven't gotten a no yet from a franchisor. We've made the product so compelling, so good that they can't say no to it because we're just solving their problems. I mean, that's it.
I'm smiling because I'm thinking about like, and not to get on me, but I was just thinking about this today. The business I'm starting, like as soon as I made the commitment to do it, and it was totally outside my comfort zone, doors started opening up and signs started like coming to me that it was the right decision. And perfect example is the business I've been researching to do, looking at all of the market and the growth and from a, exiting in the future standpoint. Turns out that in my house, I currently need this now. Like I couldn't believe it. Like the thing that I wanted to get into business doing, I turn out having this problem in my house, can't figure it out for weeks. And one day I realized that it's literally the problem I'm having is the business that I wanted to go into. Yeah. And so right now I'm actually going through the process of this service and like learning what's wrong with it and how to fix it. But you have what is the saying? You have a business that people, not only do they have a pain, but they're actively trying to solve it too. They know they have the pain. They don't know how to solve it. You've got that solution.
Yep. Yeah. And it's interesting when it's that close to you and you're experiencing it and you realize all of a sudden that you want to solve for it. All of a sudden your mind opens up to all of the infinite possibilities of how to do this, how to build the right processes, how to establish the system, like what specifically you're going to do, how many touch points. Like that's what's so fun about this. When you're hyper focused on specific pain points, you can create solutions. When you're nothing to everybody, it's like you're just shotgunning and you have no idea what you're doing and you have no idea who you're solving for.
Yeah, I love it, man. And I do think, just to touch on what Dan said, I think that when you do go all in on something, there is a certain energy that's projected out there, and whether it's God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, I do think that the universe will conspire to help you when you kind of go all in on something versus, no half measures, right? If you go all in, if you tap into the Google search of your mind, you're going to find answers, you're going to find relationships, and it's going to spit out an answer. So I think that it sounds like that's what happened here. Something I'm interested in is this just a total blue ocean within franchising? I mean, is there anyone else that does this?
So, oh my gosh. Okay. So the insurance industry, there's thousands, and there's actually 40,000 insurance agencies in the country. There's tons. So people ask me, well, who's your competition? I go, I believe my competition are existing agencies or brokers, right? Because we do two things. We do insurance compliance, but we also act as an insurance agency. And so, yes, insurance brokers are in there. Large brokers, the top 10 largest brokers in the country and world are doing a lot of franchise insurance. But nobody is doing what we're doing. So the competition, the people that we have to dethrone are brokers, but are they providing the level of service that we are? Are they providing the type of product that we are? Are they leveraging technology the way we are? Are they putting all these different components together? And the answer is absolutely not. And so the question becomes, well, why hasn't anybody else done that before? Right? That's the big question. It's like, come on. So
but you don't know about 𝗰𝘁்𝘁𝗀𝗵𝗶.
The what is it?
I didn't tell you about 𝗰𝘁𝘁𝗁?
No, I haven't heard 𝗰𝘁𝘁. Oh, class. He just he just built the company. Is that what he did?
I was Nick Lopez with Line Painting. He's a really good friend of mine, and he's been giving me all kinds of pointers for months. And I was with him recently, and I was like, yeah, like I'm really excited about starting my new business, my painting business. And he's like, I'm sorry, what? And I'm like, yeah, dude,
high-end residential home painting business.
Yeah, what do you mean? It's lemon painting.
I love it. We could just do that. We can go around and identify the best brands and just like, yeah, lemon painting. I don't know. There's a bunch of them out there.
Sisters that just do gutters.
Yes, sisters that just do gutters. Yep. So anyways, I think it's an amazing opportunity right now for us to get in there. We're doing things that are so different that it's all about removing the friction, though, for both franchisors and franchisees. Often, too, in my space specifically, people are the insurance industry is so fixated on selling insurance policies and renewing insurance policies. And we're looking at it completely different. How do we consult franchisors? How do we implement proper coverages in the very beginning with the FDD? How do we speak their language? Like, are we reviewing the item 7, the item 19? Are we reviewing the insurance language in there so they can modify the insurance requirements at a whim without having to revise the FDD, each year? So we're doing all those things from a consultation standpoint. And then what often the insurance industry forgets about is the franchisor is not just a lead generation system to sell more insurance policies. You have to be solving problems for all the stakeholders involved, franchisors and franchisees. What are we doing for the franchisee? How are we making it easier and less friction for them to purchase the proper coverage to be able to protect their investment, a significant investment? Are we forgetting that you guys are spending anywhere from $50,000 to millions of dollars to get into franchising, and insurance is the thing that finances that risk? And so we do all these things to make it easy for them to protect their investment that also aligns with the FDD, give all that data back to their franchisors so they have complete oversight of everything, but it's a done-for-you solution.
Yeah, it's funny because I think it was last Wednesday I was out with a guy that I've known for a while, but catching up with him, and he started a business in the commercial insurance space, and we were talking about the same thing where it's definitely different from what you were doing by leaps and bounds, but
it's not 𝗰𝘁𝘀𝗁𝗁.
It may have been, but just kidding. But we were talking about, it is an industry that is incredibly old school. I don't think that most of them really leverage technology like what you guys are doing. And you are solving a real issue, which I think is fantastic. And you're right. A lot of it is just focused on selling because a lot of the time with a lot of insurance agencies, a lot of it is where it's the broker is the person doing the selling and the client servicing. And it's very, very difficult to do both.
Yes.
And they're thinking, okay, well, does client servicing really pay me money? Not necessarily. Long term, it does, obviously, but you do need to get out there, sell policies, focus on renewals. And so a lot of the client servicing really gets left by the wayside because they're in business development mode 100% of the time. And so when you're focusing on solving a problem and providing service and value, especially at the franchisor level, but also at the franchisee level, that's critical because if I'm going to buy a franchise, why am I buying a franchise versus doing it on my own? Well, it's because they have so much of this stuff dialed in. I don't want to have to worry about, do I have the right coverage? Is it the right amount? Where do I go? What vendor should I use? Who can I trust? How much should I expect to invest and put aside for that? These are all things that are really critically important that if I am going to invest money, pay a franchise fee, pay a royalty, pay renewal fees, et cetera, I want to make sure that this stuff is taken care of. Well, let's pick it up, I guess, with Rikor. What does that mean? What was the inspiration for the name? It's awesome, but what does it mean?
I'm so glad you asked that question. So I'll back it up a little bit and kind of tell you maybe my thought process behind it, like kind of the origin story. So working in the insurance industry and at my dad's company for quite some time, 14 years. Something else that I did actually that I didn't talk about yet was I was also product owner and project manager of our own inbuilt, like homegrown agency management system, which you could consider like a CRM specifically for the insurance industry. It was just part of my day to day. So I didn't realize that I was also developing software for about 10 years of my career. So it gives me a very unique perspective on the industry. But what I tell people is it gave me the habit of asking the question why a lot. Why this? Why not that? Why can't it be this way? Why can't it be that way? Right? I'm constantly asked everything it's kind of annoying now because everything I see, I'm like, why don't we just do it this way? I have no shame. So I loved creating and innovating and trying to do things that improve the customer experience. I'm a huge on improving the customer experience for the end customer, which we call the insured, the person purchasing insurance. I love to innovate. And I knew going into the industry and building my own company, I didn't want to just be an insurance compliance company. I didn't want to be pigeonholed into that. So I didn't want to name the company after anything like that. I knew that there was much more to what we're building. And so I got a bunch of opinions from a lot of people. And this is a long story because honestly, naming the company came way after building the solution, which is so strange. And it took months to figure out the name. And we went around from like Instify and, at a glance, Veriglance, or whatever you name it, a bunch of stuff like that. I'm like, no, it doesn't feel right. And I landed on Rikor. I actually just made up the word. If you Google it, you'll find some company in Russia, and that's about it. But I hodgepodged it. I put a bunch of stuff together that I love. The R stands for relentless, and the I stands for innovation. Relentless innovation is first and foremost. The core stands for core technology. So if you want to put it all together, it's a mouthful, but relentlessly innovating core technology within the insurance ecosystem. So that's kind of the origin.
I like that. That's really cool, man. You couldn't get anything like that out of me, no doubt. I mean,
That's it.
There it is. For those of you just listening, he held up the logo and all that. The mouse pad, yeah.
See when I named 𝗰𝘁𝘁𝗶𝗰, I took your business and I put my last name in front of it.
That was good. That was good. It was
stands for 𝗰𝘁𝘁𝗁.
My last name and then somebody else's company.
Yeah.
Dan, well played, sir. Well played. So anyway, yeah, there's a lot of exciting things to do, man, within insurance.
Absolutely, man. So what kind of advice would you give to franchisors, franchisees regarding some of the most common errors or mistakes or pitfalls that they can fall into regarding insurance?
Yeah, maybe I'll try to identify different buyer personas really quickly. We learned really fast the different types of buyer personas and when there's inflection points when they start experiencing the pain. And it all has to come down to number of units. So 0 to about 25 or 30 units, they're both almost unaware of the problem unless they were a prior franchisor. 30 to about 75 units, they become aware of the problem, but they're not solving for it yet. 75 to about, let's say 120 units, they're trying to solve it themselves through manual paper-based processes. And about 125 plus, they're solving for it either in-house or outsourcing it. So the problem, though, is consistent across the board for every single brand. Some of the things that we identify, let's just talk about the FDD for a moment, because that's the huge point of franchising. I kind of threw out a few things. First, setting very clear expectations for franchisees. We all know when you get a frustrated franchisee, it's just not good for anybody. The item 7 is very interesting. Initial upfront expenses for a franchisee. And if you'll notice in there, often insurance is a line item in there, and it should be. We're in the home service space. Home service insurance costs a whole heck of a lot more than a lot of other industries. And so if that expectation isn't set very, very clear up front, well, then it's completely thrown out of whack. And so when we go to propose the proper coverage, guess what? They're going to push back to us. And they're also going to go and call you, the franchisor, and waste a lot of your time. And so it's very, very important that you set clear expectations and make sure that the estimated is a nice big fat range that they can't argue with. And you know what happens? They're happy and they're very content and they're okay with it. That's okay. We do the same thing with the item 19. If they have like some type of annual financial statement in there, we help them make sure it's in line. We do some estimated quotes first. The other big thing, I kind of threw that out there earlier, was just making sure that the proper language is in there. So what I mean by that is that a lot of the older FDDs I've realized or noticed, they have language in there that's very static. It doesn't allow them any flexibility, which is very problematic. Insurance is always evolving. Risk and exposure is always evolving. And so franchisors need the flexibility to require additional or new insurance requirements from existing franchisees that have been grandfathered into a 5 or 10 year contract. You got to do that. If you have to have language to modify or manipulate the operations manual, awesome. If you just put in some blanket statement saying, hey, we can modify the insurance requirements whenever we please, and you guys got to follow it, have your attorney, fix it. That's something. And then the insurance requirements. Oh my gosh, guys. I haven't seen a good one yet. And this is nothing against the attorneys and the franchisors putting this stuff together. They are doing the absolute best they can. I blame the insurance brokers that are getting involved early on with the franchisors. They're not taking the time to review the FDD, guys. They're just taking the franchisor's word for it because they want to sell a policy. You know what happens when you sell policies? You're just selling. You're not doing the consultation. You're doing it wrong every single time. So we go in there and do a consultation, which is, it can be there. It's kind of a high friction point, right? Because we're telling them, hey, we gotta revise everything in here. So first we understand the operations of the business, make sure that we really get a clear idea of what's happening. And then we get the FDD, we do an analysis, 13-point checklist, review the insurance requirements, and then we go through every single line item, and then we offer a bunch of suggestions up. And so that's where we found a ton of value from the franchisors love this process. What happens then is they typically accept it. We often get involved with their legal counsel, which I will happily do. I think that's a great next step. And then we all come to alignment. Next is making sure that culture is established within the franchise. It's much, much easier, guys, to steer a ship in the right direction when you're smaller and more nimble than when you're 100 units in. Trying to establish this later on is very difficult. The inertia that exists within a franchise with 100 plus units, you got to change the culture. So lots of things that we're seeing as we dive deeper and deeper into franchising.
Absolutely. Do it right the first time.
Do it right the first time, 100%. And so that's where we can help out. We do enjoy working with emerging brands. We are becoming more and more selective just because of the amount of demand that's happening with number of franchises asking for us to do all their stuff. But happy to help emerging brands and just really get them on the right track. This is such a critical component. Also something I want to throw out there too. Dan mentioned this kind of briefly earlier. It was just like exit strategy, having the end in mind. Well, guess what, guys? Private equity looks at compliance, and insurance is part of compliance. And if your insurance isn't up to snuff and you're not doing everything you can to mitigate risk and to create some type of firewall between franchisee and franchisor, you're going to get less valuation for your company. So this is actually plays into your exit strategy. It's really interesting.
Makes a ton of sense. Risk mitigation and protecting the investment. That's what private equity cares
Yes.
about, obviously, and for good reason. I would too.
Yeah.
I guess I have two questions. Question one, who's your ideal franchisor? If someone's listening, we've got a lot of franchise founders listening on this, what would be your perfect client? I guess let's start there and then I'll go to my second question.
Yeah. I think our ideal customer is evolving over time. We started with brands that had about 20 locations, 30 locations. That was working out quite well. We then got into some partnerships and affiliates with high growth emerging brands, which I actually probably is a really good fit for us. So target audience is an emerging brand with about 10 to 20 locations that's partnered up with some type of franchise sales or development organization that can help them grow rapidly. They have a ton of problems that they need to solving. We help scale them safely. We're now getting into larger brands and platforms. So now we're getting into platforms, which is really a fascinating space for us because we can attack it from the very, very top point and then push it down to all the franchises. And these guys have the exact same problem. Won't name names, but we're really excited about some future relationships that we've recently established with some good sized platforms. And we're excited about the interesting opportunities there with existing franchisees and how do we solve these problems? How do we align our mutual goals, which is insurance compliance, and franchisors want to generate rebates, right? Want to generate an additional revenue stream. Well, we have the ability to help them do that through insurance, which is really, really interesting and very unique. We're also leveraging a lot of technology that will help us quote, offer franchisees the exact coverage they need in real time that meet all FDD requirements and they're able to accept online. So we're going down that path and we're able to collect real-time data through franchisor specific systems. We have a lot of integrations going on, which we're really excited about. I'm like going off in a tangent though, Dan. I answered your question and then I stopped and I'm not talking about other stuff now. I'll stop there. Go.
That's okay, because you kind of went into what I was going to ask next, which is where do you see the company? Like, where do you want to take it in 3-5 years?
I love it. we want to be the future, like the future of franchising insurance. Like Rikor, I see it becoming the standard. Like, oh, why aren't you're not using Rikor yet? I want somebody to say that eventually. Just sign up with Rikor. Like, they'll just take care of you, right? The idea there is I want to show up where they do business at. What does that mean? Too many technology providers want everybody to go to their platform. Well, I'd love to live behind the scenes, to be honest. I want it done for them. I want it functioning the way they want it to function. I want the reports delivered to them. Nice little tidy present, packaged in the mail, with a little bow on it, done for them, right? Super, super simple. I want to be in every single franchise management system. I want to be in every field operating system. I want to be in every franchising specific CRM. I want franchisors to be able to activate our solution within a franchise management system. I want our KPIs to be on their dashboard inside of their system so they don't have to go anywhere. I want a franchisee to be able to purchase the proper coverage within their CRM. They don't have to go anywhere. Exactly what they need without entering any type of data. So this is where we're headed. We're really excited about it.
Where do investors send checks? In case Clockcore doesn't work out.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. It's exciting, man. Yeah. We've got some good stuff coming up, and we've got some really, really exciting opportunities coming up. And I think they'll see us around.
Love it, man. So any final parting words of wisdom, advice for franchisors, franchisees, anything you want to leave us with at all for the audience?
If you have any concerns or questions, I'm not going to sell you. I won't pitch you. Happy to do a consultation though and talk with you about your brand. I love getting to know people. I'm genuinely curious about other people. I'd love to get to know them. What's so cool about franchising too is everybody's an entrepreneur in franchising. The franchisors and the franchisees. And that's one of my favorite parts because everybody's got a story, what motivated them to get into franchising initially, which is so fun to hear about. So even if you want to connect, happy to connect.
Perfect. Where can they find you?
Email Wade at Rikor, RIKOR.io.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on, man. This is super, super valuable. I know for franchisors, good for franchisees to know as well, but love what you're doing. Awesome, awesome job. And like Dan said, if ClappsCore doesn't work out, we'd like to know where to send some investment checks. So.
I love it. Love it. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care, man. Thanks, everyone, for listening to another episode of the Franchise Founders Podcast. Share, subscribe, leave an honest review, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Franchise Founders Podcast.
If you want our help with anything from buying a franchise to franchising your business to anything in between, shoot us an email at franchisefounders@gmail.com.